On the night of July 23, 1982, veteran actor Vic Morrow stood in waist-deep water on a dark movie set outside Los Angeles. In his arms were two young children, 7-year-old Myca Dinh and 6-year-old Renee Shin-Yi Chen. Above them, a helicopter hovered low on the set while explosions detonated around them, simulating a chaotic Vietnam War battle. The scene was dangerous, but the director wanted one more take. Moments later, the helicopter lost control. It crashed directly into the actors. Within seconds, all three were dead. One of the children was crushed. Another was killed instantly. Vic Morrow was decapitated by the helicopter's rotor blades. What happened that night would become one of the worst accidents in Hollywood history, triggering a criminal trial, massive lawsuits, and permanent changes to the way movies are made. I'm Teacher Eddie, the real historian, and this is Real Scandals. Act 1. The Return of the Twilight Zone. By the early 1980s, the Twilight Zone was already television legend. Created by Rod Serling in 1959, the show blended science fiction, horror, and social commentary into short moral parables. Its eerie premise was simple. Ordinary people suddenly found themselves in extraordinary circumstances, strange realities where justice, fate, or irony delivered the final twist. The series became one of the most influential shows in television history. By the 1980s, Hollywood saw an opportunity to revive the franchise, but this time as a feature film. The result was Twilight Zone the Movie, an anthology made up of 4 separate segments, each directed by some of the most prominent filmmakers of the era. Among them, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante, George Miller, and one of the most successful young directors in Hollywood at the time, John Landis. Act 2. John Landis, Hollywood's hottest director. In the early 1980s, John Landis was on an incredible run. He had already directed National Lampoon's Animal House, The Blues Brothers, An American Werewolf in London, and each film was wildly successful. Landis had a reputation for being bold, energetic, and ambitious on set, but some crew members also described him as aggressive and demanding, someone who pushed productions to the limit in pursuit of dramatic results. For Twilight Zone the Movie, Landis directed the opening segment. It told the story of a racist man mysteriously transported through time, forced to experience persecution firsthand, including being hunted during the Vietnam War. That role was played by Vic Morrow. Act 3. Vic Morrow. Vic Morrow was a respected character actor with a long career in television and film. He was best known for starring in the 1960s war series Combat, where he played Sergeant Chip Saunders. By the early 1980s, Morrow had spent decades working steadily in Hollywood. He was a professional actor, experienced, dependable, and widely respected. The role in the Twilight Zone movie was relatively small, but it required one dramatic sequence: a nighttime escape through a Vietnamese village under attack. The scene would involve explosions, running through water, and a helicopter flying overhead, and it would require 2 child actors. Act 4. The child actors. The children cast in the scene were Myca Dinh, age 7, and Renee Shin-Yi Chen, age 6. Both were Vietnamese-American children hired to play villagers in the Vietnam segment, but their presence on the set raised a serious issue. California labor laws strictly regulate when children can work, especially during nighttime filming and around hazardous stunts. According to later investigations, the production did not obtain proper permits for the children to be present during the late-night shoot, and their parents were reportedly paid under the table to avoid official paperwork. This meant the children were not protected by the safety oversight normally required for minors on film sets, and that decision would become central to the scandal that followed. Act 5. The Stunt. The sequence Landis planned was visually spectacular. Vic Morrow would carry the two children through shallow water while explosions simulated a battlefield around them. Above them, a helicopter piloted by veteran pilot Dorsey Wingo would hover low to the set to create a dramatic effect. The helicopter would swoop down as explosions erupted nearby. But the stunt was risky, extremely risky. The helicopter would be flying low at night, close to the actors, with large pyrotechnic charges detonated in the surrounding set. Even experienced stunt coordinators expressed concerns, but the scene moved forward. Act 6, the night of the accident. Shortly after 2:30 a.m., the crew prepared for another take. Explosions were placed along the riverbank, the helicopter lifted into position, Vic Morrow carried the children through the water as planned, the cameras rolled, then the explosions began. But one blast was much larger than expected. The shockwave hit the helicopter, the pilot immediately lost control. The aircraft dropped from the sky, and in seconds the helicopter crashed directly onto the actors. The rotor blades struck Vic Morrow and the children. The impact killed all three instantly. Crew members on set were horrified. Some ran towards the wreckage, while others froze in shock. In a matter of moments, what had been a movie set had become the scene of a fatal and horrific accident. Act 7, Criminal Investigation. The tragedy shocked Hollywood. Film sets had seen accidents before, but never anything like this. 3 people, including 2 children, were killed during filming. Authorities launched a criminal investigation into the production. Prosecutors focused on several issues: the illegal hiring of child actors, the decision to film dangerous stunts at night, the proximity of the helicopter to large explosions, and most importantly, who was responsible. Ultimately, director John Landis and 4 other members of the production team were charged with involuntary manslaughter. It was an extraordinary development. Directors had been criticized for dangerous filmmaking before, but rarely had one faced criminal prosecution. Act 8, the trial. The trial began in 1987 and lasted nearly 10 months. Prosecutors argued that Landis had recklessly endangered the actors, ignoring safety concerns in order to achieve a more dramatic shot. They presented evidence that the children were illegally hired, the helicopter pilot had expressed concern about flying so close to the explosions, and the stunt itself had been dangerously designed. The defense countered that the accident was tragic but unpredictable and a mishap. They argued that the explosion that destabilized the helicopter was not intended to be that large, and that the crash was ultimately beyond the control of the filmmakers. After months of testimony, the jury reached its verdict. All 5 defendants were acquitted. No one was convicted in the criminal trial. But the story did not end there. Act 9, the settlements. Civil lawsuits followed. The families of the 2 children filed wrongful death suits against the filmmakers and the studio. Eventually, the cases were settled at a court. The families received multi-million-dollar settlements, though the exact amounts were never publicly disclosed. For many observers, the settlements were an acknowledgement that serious mistakes had been made, but no financial compensation could undo what happened. Act 10, Hollywood changes. The accident had a profound impact on the film industry. In its aftermath, Hollywood introduced stricter safety regulations, especially involving child actors, pyrotechnics, helicopter stunts, night filming, and the tragedy also strengthened the authority of safety supervisors and stunt coordinators, which ensured directors could no longer override safety concerns as easily. The events of July 1982 became a permanent cautionary tale, a reminder that filmmaking, no matter how spectacular, should never come at the cost of human lives. Conclusion. Vic Morrow, Myca, Renee Shin-Yi Chen. 3 lives lost in a pursuit of a movie scene. The Twilight Zone accident remains one of the darkest chapters in Hollywood history. A tragedy born from ambition, risk, and decisions that should never have been made. And a reminder that behind every film set, no matter how controlled it may seem, real lives are always at stake. If you have a thought about the responsibility of John Landis, drop it in the comments below. This was the story of the tragic Twilight Zone accident, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Real Scandals. And on our next episode, we will take a closer look at the tragic death of Brandon Lee. As a reminder, I upload several new episodes weekly. Also, please join the Real Movie Discord. The link is in the description. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe for future videos. I'm Teacher Eddie, and this has been Real Scandals, the truth behind Hollywood's darkest stories. Catch you next time, fam.